Hello, I'm John, the Tech Director at CACI. Within CACI, we make data more accessible using platforms such as Snowflake. And today, I'm joined with Duncan Beeby from Snowflake to talk about the role of Snowflake, making customer data more accessible, and the role of the customer data layer. Duncan, thank you for joining us. Would you like to give a brief introduction to yourself, your role within Snowflake, and your role within this emerging role of the customer data layer?
Yeah, absolutely, John. Thank you very much for inviting me along today. So, Duncan Beeby. So I'm a principal partner solution engineer for Snowflake. So I've been at Snowflake for just under 5 years now. My role is essentially to work between the account teams and the customer and the likes of yourselves as key established partners to help drive and solve problems and drive value through the customer engagements and interactions. So yeah, really pleased to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me along.
No, thank you for being here. It's great to have you. One of the core emerging themes of the data industry over the last, let's say, 12 to 18 months has been a trend towards less about mastering or storing data, but more about leaning into making that data more accessible to end users, to applications, especially the role of AI, the growing role of AI. It'd be good to understand what industry changes you've seen and what changes you've seen at Snowflake, and maybe how the technology's adapted to face into that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great question because I think, if you'd have asked me this question 3 or 4 years ago, the answer would be very different, with the kind of onset of AI, generative AI, and now into the world of agentic AI. I think the key thing I've learned about this over what people are driving for is just removing friction out of the equation. So the demand for quicker access to more stable, to more real-time, to more relevant data is really kind of driving customers' demands. They want that kind of ability to kind of get accurate data quicker than ever. They want instant responses quicker than ever, ironically. So one of the things that we're very, very kind of key on in Snowflake is trying to make this so much easier for customers and our clients and our joint clients, just by removing that complexity out of the equation. So can we make it easier for them to onboard data? Can we make it easier for them to ingest data? Can we make it easier for them to analyze, transform, and drive intelligent insights out of that? And that's absolutely the Snowflake mantra. So if we look at the slightly wider ecosystem, then what we're also doing is working with great partners such as yourself to kind of add value capabilities across the top with the applications that you're pushing and you're putting on top of Snowflake. So for me, Snowflake nowadays is less of a technology sell, it's more of an ecosystem sell, which we can't do without the likes of yourselves. So customers are demanding better insight to customer 360 views, more accurate, more data product, more customer-centric views of the world. So with the things like the marketplace where we can kind of get access to data sets, data stores, swap products with each other, swap AI models and all those sorts of things, we're really kind of just on the precipice of just leveraging the capabilities of Snowflake, but doing it with the likes of yourselves.
It's really interesting you talk about the role of Snowflake in terms of this broader ecosystem. I said I'd reference around, when Snowflake first came about in terms of the birth of it, it was talked about this insight data platform, insight data warehouse, and more recently that the role of Snowflake has changed quite significantly from being less of that and more as what I would suggest is almost like an activation layer or an application layer, or even a platform that can augment whatever tech stack you have to make the data more accessible. It'd be good to understand from your perspective what those changes in Snowflake mean to data engineers, to architects, and what is the role of Snowflake in a broader ecosystem, broader architecture?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. A few years ago, Snowflake's 13 this year, right? So yeah, we're 13 years old, so we're just into that kind of slightly awkward teenager stage where we're trying to figure out, what we are. But with the fact that we've now got Sridhar, kind of leading from the front, who is part of the Neva search engine acquisition around AI that we brought in. I think our focus has been never clearer than before. It's to kind of take Snowflake from what was traditionally a data warehouse, that's where we landed and that's where we kind of pitched ourselves to start with, to becoming more of what people are calling as like a true business platform. So it's that ability to kind of say, right, I've got the ability to have storage and compute, but it's not about that anymore. It's about how we enable customers to use that and the simplicity of bringing those pieces together. So do I want to spend time configuring lots and lots of components of compute, or do I just want to get on with stuff? So what we're doing and what the vision is at Snowflake is to essentially have that business platform that allows people to bring in the data, ingest it, transform it, use it, even bring their own existing applications with things like the Snowpark container services, bring those natively and run inside Snowflake to be able to kind of decommission some of the hardware and really bring it into that ecosystem where we're starting to pull together lots of different verticals around media, telco, FS, public sector, specific flavors of the cloud offering, which is Snowflake plus its ecosystem partners such as yourselves, plus data sets, plus products, plus applications, and really going out to help organizations kind of solve for those problems that are specific to those kind of particular verticals. If you look at the kind of acquisition strategy of Snowflake over the last few years, the ability to kind of make it easier to get data in, be able to kind of leverage AI much simpler than anything else out in the market, just to be kind of able to pull all those pieces together in a simple plane. We're kind of seeing these days, surprisingly, the most common coding language everybody uses now is not Python, it's not Scala, it's not Java, it's English.
Yeah.
It's the English language that everybody wants to converse in to tell the AI what it needs to do. And our role here is to essentially take that complexity, remove that friction, and be able to deliver a platform that people can just get value and insights out of much easier than anything we've ever seen before.
You touched on quite a few really good points there. So there's a couple I want to just tackle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we supported Snowflake, I think back in April with public sector hackathon. We supported from an SI engineering perspective. We had NHS there, Ordnance Survey, Met Office.
It was a great
really,
gig
really
there.
good day.
Yeah, great gig.
And I was so passionate about. I was so skeptical going into it, but certainly I wasn't entirely sure what we could achieve in the day. But coming out of it was incredible because you had, I think, 5 different teams coming together, different skill sets. Some with SQL, some with Python, some with Scala, some with absolutely no coding ability whatsoever. And the team that I was in, we had representatives from NHS, I think OS, Met Office, and I think DFT were there as well, apart from transport. And utilising the marketplace of Snowflake, utilising open accessible data, we could very, very quickly, within sort of 6 hours, do a POC looking at vulnerable people in the northwest of England who would need services and what the impact on NHS waiting times would be. And genuinely, after that 6 hours, we put together a genuinely working good POC. And so the barrier for entry now that Snowflake has got through just the broad array of coding abilities, but also just the accessibility of data is just incredible. I think, sorry, that's a very, very long-winded question. To say, it'd be good to hear maybe from you just some things maybe that you've seen similar to that where Snowflake's been put to good use.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'm seeing it so much more now, especially with the rise of kind of just bringing AI into the mainstream. I think people are going from AI meaning everything's all inventive to everything's all industrial, right? So I think we're kind of going through that transition. And one of the things I'm seeing really, really prominent in my every single day, that customers and clients that I work with, is the ability to rapidly prototype and build out things. I wouldn't go as far as to fail fast, but it's that, can I spin something up to test a theory quickly to react to market regulation changes, market trends, anything like that traditionally would have been historical waterfall projects that would have taken at least 18 months probably to see through to fruition, in which time everything's changed again. So I see this every single day. Every single client and customer that I'm working with, their attitude now is, can we use AI to prototype something really quickly? And there's still a lot of things that AI can't do. For example, it doesn't do empathy very well. It's not empathetic in those sorts of things, but it can get you 80% of the way there a lot quicker than what we are doing. And the Snowflake mantra there is really, well, let's make that 80% even quicker to get there, because let's just remove the complexity out of it. So I see it in every single day. I can count on both hands clients that I'm working with that are anchoring all their conversations around AI, not because they now think it's kind of whizzy and cool, but because they realize the productivity benefits of it. So can we do things like, if we've got customers, to your point, one of the things about vulnerable kind of people, in the North, one of the things I'm working on at the moment is how do we manage AI-assisted debt recovery journeys? So how do we tell if people are about to go into debt? So I'm working with utility companies at the moment from a, you look at it as a debt recovery kind of thing, but actually there's an ethical side to it as well around, can I tell by using AI based upon these people's payment history, market conditions, whether they're likely to go into, debt? And if they are, can we kind of generate a debt assistance plan that allows us to help those customers through rough periods to do right by them, but still retain them as customers. And in the same way, if people are looking to offboard, should we keep them? If they are high risk, should we let them go, or should we actually offer them more incentives, those sorts of things? But that's all based around rapid prototypes. Let's throw something together. So in Snowflake, let's take the Cortex AI, let's wrap it around a Streamlit application, let's build the data, let's test it, let's get marketplace data. So they're almost like, I would say lots of clients are going through their own isolated hackathons, testing their own theories, but using Snowflake as the driver for that.
Yeah, entirely agree. And I think, going back in my career, so much time was spent getting that data perfect, and that was your end goal. Your end goal was getting that data perfect. Now that process has been sped up so quickly. It's now about making sure that actually my commercial lead who can't code has got access to that data. My application's got access to data. How do we make the best use of that data? So thinking about, you sort of touched a bit about AI and AI decisioning. That's always becoming more commonplace. It's well, everyone's talking about it now. It's no longer a yardstick for innovation. It's now everyone has access to it. I mean, obviously, Snowflake has been key in making that available with the launch of things like the Arctic, Arctic AI and LLM models within Snowflake. Obviously, deployment of AI and AI models has an impact on infrastructure and architecture. It would be good to understand, probably, from your perspective, what Snowflake has been doing to make AI is more accessible, and also to ensure that there is less of a burden on the infrastructure.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and it's something we get, and there's also the security and governance angle to consider as well. So if we looked at it just from a kind of how do we make AI accessible for people, certainly from an infrastructure people perspective, is one of the things that we've always been very keen on, again, like I mentioned several times, and I do sound like a bit like a stuck record, is trying to make things easy for people to kind of able to get their hands on the benefits of things like AI. So Snowflake's been working really super hard, certainly over the last 12 to 18 months, to kind of pivot from being that traditional data warehouse into more of an AI data cloud. So we launched our Cortex kind of model, which is all our AI wrapper. So you hear Siri, you hear Alexa, you hear Cortex. That's our Snowflake equivalent. And some of the things we've been doing is that very often, if you look at some of these kind of AI solutions out there, it's a bit like, and I use the analogy of kind of going for a meal. Do you want to kind of build the house, build the utilities, plumb in the gas, do it yourself, and all those sort of things, which takes time. There's lots of hidden costs in there. Or do you just want to go to a restaurant and get fed and, kind of life's easy, I can go and do other stuff with the time that I'm saving? And that's the way we try and work with Snowflake. So the fact that we've made it easy for people to integrate with AI in every day. So we've got the Cortex Copilot, which will write and generate queries for you. It will ask you what you're trying to do and generate those for you, which you can then run, breaking down the barriers of, I might not necessarily need a PhD in SQL, but I can certainly get going, to kind of get the answers. And then with the innovations, things like AI SQL, where traditionally, I grew up as an Oracle DBA, right? So we used to write lots of very complicated joins and whereby queries, and you've got, I dare say, you've got the scars as well. And actually, what you can do now is you can generate those queries, but actually put prompts in the queries just to tell it what you want. So get me this data, and I want you to look over it and tell me where this is the same in natural language, and it will go and figure it out. And it's not just language; it can be, tell me where this is the same as a picture of something, or it can be a snippet out of an MP3 file or an MP4 file. Show my age there with MP3. With MP4 files, it can be any kind of unstructured data that you can embed into a SQL query to kind of analyze the data. And then you're doing that over unstructured and structured data. So just making it easy for people to kind of take lots of complicated things, reams of documents that they may have on SharePoint or something like that, matching that with the structured world of tables and data and all those sort of things, and then surfacing them in an easy way that's accessible. So, for example, one of the things we released just recently around the agentic capability is something called Snowflake Intelligence. And that is a chat UI that allows you to simply chat with the data, and it will come back and ask you questions, just like we all are very used to on Gemini and all those sort of things. But this way, it's trawling across the data inside Snowflake, and it might be data that sits outside Snowflake in Teams, in Slack, in your kind of collaboration channels as well. But the end user has no concept of how it's working under the covers. They're just chatting with the data, and Snowflake's doing all the heavy lifting. And one of the really nice things is that one of the big things that people really are uneasy about, and when I say uneasy, it's about a governance thing, it's about a security thing, is if I send my data out to these models, these LLMs, I'm never quite sure how it's going to be used or what it's going to be used for. So the nice thing about Snowflake is we take all those common those LLMs, like your Llamas, your Claudes, your Anthropics, and we host them inside the safety net of Snowflake for you. And what that means is that we're constantly looking after it. We're adding new things like, GPT-5 on day 0 releases, but the data never goes outside the Snowflake boundary. And that's hugely important when you're looking at customer data, from a PII perspective as well. So we're trying to make it ring fence. We're trying to remove that friction, and we're just trying to break down the barriers of people using it in everyday kind of situations.
It's this incredible balance, which I think, with my perspective, Snowflake are addressing very, very well, because there's obviously, we talk about today about the customer data platform, making data more accessible, but then obviously you don't want to lose your data or start proliferating data into other areas. And I think one of the really good things that Snowflake have done sort of over the last 12, 18 months is the consolidation of certain workloads, bringing those workloads closer to the data. So it means you can run LLMs, you can run AI models on your data locally, so your data isn't going out somewhere else. Where we're seeing more and more the emergence of sort of zero copy platforms. So we work quite a lot with high touch, composable CDP, and again, instead of where you see sort of historic sort of MarTech platforms will be replicating the data, all of those workloads are run locally within Snowflake. And we've recently just developed our own native app, which is the native app we deployed within Snowflake. And the purpose we've done that is so that clients can use our native app on their data within their warehouse without having to send us data and having to replicate data further. So again, it's being able to increase accessibility and interchange of data whilst also being really sort of governed.
It's a game changer.
It's a game changer.
It really is a game changer. I mean, I think the data sharing, we started off in data, right? Let's share some data, and it's great. We kind of revolutionized that rather than doing lots of drop boxes and is the data stale and timely. And we then moved on to data plus applications, and now we've done applications plus AI models and all those sort of things. So, you guys you're absolutely a great example of how to reduce those barriers to getting insights for customers quicker by just leveraging the capabilities of Snowflake. Absolutely amazing.
We've been working quite a lot with entertainment businesses at the moment. Again, we're sharing insights to advertisers and utilizing sort of the clean room technology. Being able to share data, not just even on a one-to-one basis, on a sort of a triumvirate basis between multiple partners to share those insights, but keep that, still own that data and have complete security on what you're exposing, how you're exposing, when you're exposing, has made a big difference to people trying to activate audiences and insights.
Yeah, it's a great. I mean, as one of the things when I joined Snowflake, good few years ago now. It's one of the really compelling things that drew me into it. Was the kind of just the differentiators. The way they're going about these things in the market is very, very different.
We recently attended the Snowflake World Tour, and obviously you were there. One of the key points around the opening keynote speech was around how Snowflake has emerged more into this engine to greater connect other platforms together, and the role of Snowflake as being this engine to make data more accessible. One of the announcements before the World Tour, and also talked a lot in the keynote speech, was the Open Semantic Interchange, or OSI capability, which enables basically a common language to other technology vendors to talk together. It'd be really good to hear from you about the impact of the OSI, what that means, and what value it's delivering to clients.
Snowflake are big fans of kind of these open standard plays, right? We love to kind of contribute to things, and that's a great example. So in the same way that we are kind of helping contribute to the Apache Iceberg kind of foundation and all that for interoperability, because again that opens up the openness of the platform. The OSI, the open kind of semantic interchange kind of capability was really great, because I think what we're seeing nowadays is that you've got AI, and that's great, and you can train the models. But what we want to try and do is move past that hallucination phase, where it's coming back with, I kind of think this. And we need to be more accurate in the way that we're retrieving stuff when we're running AI across. And the trend in the market these days at the moment is to put what we call semantic views. So like business terminology views across the top of data. So all of your clients will have different ways of referring to different entities. So some may call it customer, some may call it party, some may call it entity. But fundamentally, it's all the same thing under the covers. It's the same data, sitting in tables at the bottom. And the idea here is to kind of help standardize that way of talking. So it's almost like having, a kind of global translator for different languages that are sitting on top of your data that can work across different technologies. So not just something that works in Snowflake, but if we were to bring data in from ETL vendors using semantic layers, it would understand the same kind of language through the OSI as it would do in Snowflake. So they are literally plug and play terminologies at that level. So what that means is, as data's coming through into Snowflake, it can still be understood and fed in through the ETL tools, for example, that when we run the AI across it, it all just kind of works with their semantic terminology. So we know from upstream that data coming in has these synonyms, it has these friendly names, and when it arrives into Snowflake using that OSI layer, we're essentially then be able to take that, apply the AI to it as part of its kind of thinking, and then translate that into meaningful returns from the data. So we went to this, we announced it at Snowflake World Tour. We're hugely proud of it. We've got a great number of kind of founding kind of partners in there. And we genuinely hope it's going to help drive benefit, in terms of standardizing the way that we talk and the way that we reference data across the layers. And again, we've made it really easy in Snowflake, is that, we've got some new semantic view, semantic model capability that's just click and drag. You add it to an agent, which you then run across your data. By default, they are OSI compliant. So you don't even have to do anything inside Snowflake other than just build your semantic view or import your semantic view into there from an external tool. So yeah, I think it's going to help drive, a standard of a way that we're going to use these LLMs to get even more consistent data returns back from the AI agents that are trawling across our data.
Excellent. So what next for Snowflake? What are the big trends coming over the next 12 to 18 months? What are the sneak previews?
Yeah, I think that's a great insight. And I think what we're just going to see is more evolution of the AI capabilities. If I look at the AI world, so everything that we're doing, absolutely, we're kind of always improving the platform. We're always making it go faster. We're always trying to do smarter things. The standard joke with these things is, the faster we make it go, the less money we make, because people are computing less. So we kind of always have a bit of a giggle about that. But where the company is going, it's leading everything with the AI push. So the fact that we're not just investing in the AI bit, but the complementary pieces like the OSI. And the way that this is starting to go now is that we're seeing the future is definitely going to be multi-agentic. So, how do we combine multiple agents together with multiple different kind of capabilities to do even smarter tasks? And that's the way I'm seeing it going. At the moment, people build agents. The more we make use of it, the more the demand will grow for it, I think, as well. There's not a thing that we don't do these days where, AI isn't becoming part of the conversation. So for me, I think what you're going to see from Snowflake over the next 12 to 18 months is just even further investment in the AI kind of multi-agentic future. So I think that's where it's going.
So I totally echo your point in terms of the future we're seeing is going to have organizations using multiple agentic models, but the one thing they all need is access to good quality consolidated unified data in a single platform.
I agree. Yeah, it's and you're absolutely right, and it's a great point actually, because AI is only as good as the data you put across the top of it, and you will never get away from that. No. Customers will never get away from that. So, well-ordered data, well-structured data, and working with partners like yourselves to help accelerate that. I think that's, for me, the capabilities that the likes of CACI bring are really, for me, the catalysts into accelerating AI adoption, because it's got to be trusted. And I think we can't do that without the likes of you guys.
And we can't do it without you. Thank you, Duncan. So you just heard there Duncan speak from Snowflake around the role of Snowflake in helping to consolidate and unify data to create that customer data layer, that data layer, to make data more accessible for organizations as they're wishing to deploy more AI and AI agentic models and bring those to bear. Thank you, Duncan.
Very welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for watching. That was me interviewing Duncan Beeby from Snowflake. We'll have another interview where Duncan interviews me on the role of CACI and Snowflake together to understand how we are utilizing the platform to deliver better customer experiences.